Many people suffer because the human condition suffers from misapplied decisions to the self, not learning lessons, misunderstanding creation, how God works through the form or works through the mechanism of the self, which is all about selectivity. Many times people use lower emotions because of problems. In other words, they get angry, they get afraid, frustrated, worried, resentful. These are lower emotions, and then they get stuck on them. I've been through quite a few myself as well. And when you take a good finger pointing at the self to start to be responsible for yourself, you start realizing that you created it. You know, the saying of Christ, we are made in the image and likeness of God. Well, we have to clean up our act in order to get more self-realized. And, the great ones, they became God-realized. But self-realized is, like knowing God's within you, not up in the sky. Our antiquated churches taught that God's in the sky, not in you and me, but God's in me. God's in you. But we can say it, but how do we cultivate that? How do we relate to that? Well, we can't unless we every day make that relationship. So suffering is the tool that is used by creation to change. It is the human condition that causes pain. A recent client who got pneumonia, they had texted me for some information, but not about the ammonia, about something else. And then they were gone. And I could feel from, a ways that they went to the hospital. And they texted me back a couple days later, and I said, well, I knew you went to the hospital. And then they started to blame me. Well, why didn't you say something? And I said, well, you needed to learn about your suffering. I'm not going to interfere with your suffering. You're asking me to tell you to fix your mistakes and you not learn from your mistakes. And we're supposed to learn from our mistakes. That's how life is. And if you don't do that, then you haven't grown, you haven't evolved, you haven't suffered enough. Sounds sick, but it's true. When we start realizing that, to change ourselves, to change our avenue, to change our way, to become more realized rather than a false standard. And we can't change unless we're aware. Awareness is the key. Awareness is consciousness. Consciousness is knowing how you respond, knowing how you react, and learning how to select differently. So she didn't know how to select differently. And so she needed to get sick, to get pneumonia, to even learn that she had a selection problem. That's what disease does. It always has. It's nothing new. But we've been taught and educated incorrectly by our systems. And we've done a, butter up or put the salt and the butter on the popcorn to make it that bland taste to go away. We've camouflaged it. And we've treated symptoms. We didn't treat the cause. So the cause keeps beating you up. The cause is the improper selection, the improper choice. In other words, ignorance. In other words, the number one sin is ignorance, not knowing. I don't know. So what do? I don't know. I'm going to go to the doctor. So we go to the doctor, and then we put all of our kudos in our doctor. And then we want the doctor to heal us. And yet we haven't properly understood our own problem. And perhaps the doctor wasn't even trained about the body, mind, and soul. Most of them aren't. They're trained on symptoms and diagnostics for symptoms to put you into disease category, a label, and then you work with that label. Well, that's one way to do it. That's how the system does it. But some people don't want that. Some people want something different. Some people want to cure themselves. Some people want to take care of themselves. So a lot of people, they don't know how to do that. They weren't trained that. They were trained to chase the symptoms and get rid of the symptoms, which does not get rid of the cause. The cause keeps coming back. So if we look a little differently and we try to understand the mind a little bit as a resonating tool, as an odometer reading, a gauge that tells you what's in your mind. What do I mean? Well, if there was a big tiger that was going to attack you, you would get up and run. You would get up and protect yourself, hopefully, right? Well, if there's no tiger, no running, no protecting yourself. And this is what happens a lot of times. People have a tiger in their body about something from a memory a long time ago. It could have been 20, 30 years ago. It could have been 5 years ago. And the body's still saying, I'm being attacked. And then what does the body do? It attacks itself. It gets an autoimmune disease. It gets diabetes. It gets Hashimoto's disease. It gets Raynaud's phenomenon. It gets some disease where the body's attacking some system. And then we go, okay, that's the diagnosis. Okay, let's treat the symptoms now. Well, that's not getting to the cause. The cause is the memory in the unconscious mind where the odometer in the mind is still saying, you're going too fast. You're going too fast. And this causes adrenaline output. This is causing lower immunity after a while. First it's hyperimmunity, then it gets lower immunity, then the adrenals get lower. The thyroid amps up sometimes because of this, and then there's a fight in the body. All because of an unprocessed memory that's stuck. It's very common. Nothing new. Very, very, very common. And you go to 5 doctors, and none of them diagnoses that. They just look for the label. They call you the label, and the treatment for the label that's in the diagnostician book, the PDR, and then they reference to the materia medica and what to do. And so it's all in the book, which is great. But is anybody looking at maybe that old memory in the mind that's in the unconscious mind now, that's in there saying, I got a tiger still attacking me. Where's it coming from? Well, that's where healing comes in. You can't heal unless you heal the past. If you don't heal the past, you blame everybody. You blame others because of your past, because of the past hurt, or you feel like a victim to it because of the struggle, because of the dominance of that odometer saying you're going fast too far, but you're going nowhere. And suffering you must do, because the selector on the inside, the choice, the new choice is not made. The old choice is still stuck. And the new choice is maybe, oh, I see. I'm still thinking that. I'm still thinking I'm in a closet. I'm still thinking someone's beating me up. I'm still thinking I'm raped. I'm still thinking I'm divorced and nothing. I'm still thinking I lost my job. I'm still, see, and those get stuck. And then the body feels threatened. Most of these come from childhood, and they come from past lives, and the childhood stuff is the past life stuff. So when you try to understand the childhood stuff, you help both. Yet, idealistically, the past life stuff is deeper. It's deeper. It's in the lower subconscious, and the subconscious is the childhood, Superconsciousness is where the soul resides. It's through the subconscious mind, but they tell us to repress it and shove it down and medicate it a lot of times, which you can do that to get out of pain. It's fine, but if you want to heal, you need to start making new choices about what this phenomena is, so that you can have a workable relationship between spirit and you and proper choices.